She discovered an incredible connection when she unexpectedly jumped into a millionaire's arms. Sarah felt the world shift beneath her feet as she collided with the sharp line of a tailored suit. Startled, she looked up into the eyes of Jack, the stranger with an undeniable magnetism that sent a jolt of energy coursing through her. It was a momentary contact, yet the aftermath settled in her chest like a thunderclap. In the small town where reputation and judgment ruled every interaction, the last thing she needed was to attract attention, especially from an outsider. As she blurted out an apology, her heart raced, not just from the collision, but from the potent awareness of her isolation. Here she was, a diligent biology teacher, wrestling with the ghosts of her late husband while raising 2 children alone, and now she found herself fixated on a man she didn't even know. Jack's laughter resonated, rich and genuine, as he shared his story of climbing out of poverty into wealth. "It's about giving back," he said, and Sarah felt something within her unfurl. Could she dare to hope for a life beyond the walls she'd built? But the thrill faded quickly as she thought of her in-laws, judgmental eyes always watching, ready to pounce at any sign of weakness. What would they say, she wondered, her stomach twisting in knots. They had been relentless since the day of her husband's funeral, each success of theirs a tacit reminder of her failure to sustain their legacy. Sarah's heart lowered into a pit of anxiety at the thought of dissenting from their ideal of a humble widow. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Sarah turned back to Jack, but something like a brewing storm brewed in her chest. Each idea he shared ignited a flicker of desire for purpose, a desire to rise beyond her self-imposed prison of grief and societal expectation. Yet that flickering potential filled her with dread. What if she faltered? What if her past haunted her into oblivion? Her breath quickened as Jack spoke of his vision for investing in their town, and the sheer idea of him shaking things up ignited a mix of excitement and fear. Who would ally with an outsider? Would she dare face whispers from her own family about abandoning their values? Just as visions of transformation blossomed in her mind, a storm of local elitists threatened to drown her.
Their resentful murmurings were already seeping into the haze of small-town judgment, casting shadows on her budding connection with Jack. She felt cornered, trapped between her own desire for something more and the relentless grip of her circumstances. Her thoughts spiraled. Was standing beside him worth the risk of losing what little she had in terms of respect and family allegiance? Each question cut deeper, resonating like a drumbeat in her mind. With the weight of personal tragedy colliding with the possibility of new beginnings, she felt the tension escalate. Would she embrace the chance of freedom that Jack presented, or would she allow the remnants of tradition to suffocate her dreams? She took a deep breath, heart racing, feeling the edges of her sanity fray. The moment was fragile, teetering on the brink of irrevocable change. What would she choose when everything inside her screamed to reclaim her life, yet a loud voice echoed from the past, urging her to conform? Sarah stood on the precipice, filled with anguish, ready to leap into both the promise and the uncertainty of the unknown. Sarah took a step back, jolted from the whirlwind of her thoughts as Jack's smile broadened, inviting her to share in his world. Beneath her apprehension, a faint ember of curiosity flickered. What would it mean to truly engage with someone who had transformed his life? The allure of freedom whispered softly, a tantalizing promise that clashed violently with the weight of expectations tethered to her. Jack continued to elaborate on his ideas for the town, community programs, scholarships, and even opportunities for local artisans. Each proposal felt like a key to her own potential freedom. Yet for Sarah, that freedom was layered with the sharp bite of guilt. As a teacher, she had dedicated her life to nurturing young minds, always with the intent of giving them tools to forge their own futures. Why should she not do the same for herself? But hesitation wrapped itself around her like a tight corset, restricting her breath. She feared what her in-laws would think if they discovered her interest in Jack. "She's just chasing the next distraction," they would assert,
their judgment clear as day in their clipped tones. The idea of their disdain pinched her heart, tightening the strings of her already fraught existence. What if her next choices were criticized like every previous one? Just as her mind spiraled deeper, Jack caught her eye again, his own deep-set determination visible beneath the warmth of his exterior. "You have students," he said simply, breaking through her reverie. "You already inspire change every day. Imagine if you could influence your town on a larger scale." His words landed like stones tossed into her turbulent feelings, rippling outward, forcing her to contemplate her significance beyond the four walls of her classroom. Realizations surged through her, igniting an unbidden reflection.
Could she weave her lived experience as a survivor of grief into a tapestry of inspiration? For the first time, the thought of asserting herself felt more delicious than extraordinary. The prospect of breaking away from the shadows of her in-laws' judgments to explore something genuine was frightening but intoxicating. She felt an abandoned part of her resting awake, a budding resolve that whispered, for too long she had dimmed her own voice. "What if we collaborated?" Jack suggested, shifting their conversation. "You know the needs of this community better than I ever could. We could create something together that helps bring resources and attention to the worthwhile projects here." His suggestion rolled around in her mind, a gentle nudge toward her burgeoning ambitions. The simple truth echoed back to her. She possessed knowledge, connections, and a fierce passion that could make an impact. What if this was the change she needed, not just for those she taught, but for herself? Ignoring the rosy glow spreading within her, the remnants of worry settled in as she pondered the implications. Would aligning herself with Jack trigger the scorn of her peers and family? The scales tipped. Could facing judgment be worth seizing her own aspirations? A rattle of anxiety fluttered in her stomach, but beneath it lay a burgeoning strength, a conviction that she had the power to mold her journey. As she ventured to articulate this emerging idea, Jack leaned closer, his expression unyielding yet compassionate. "Sarah, this is about you too. Your voice matters. Don't let the emotion of grief cloud the possibilities ahead." His words stung in the best way, calling her forth from the shadows. A spark of purpose flickered within, and in that moment, Sarah felt the air shift. She could either retreat into the familiar safety of fear or forge an unfamiliar path toward who she could truly become. The atmosphere became thick with potential. She opened her mouth, ready for an answer that could change everything she thought to be true about herself. But just as she began to solidify her intentions, the sound of footsteps echoed through the hallway, pulling her back to the gritty reality of her world. The half-formed future slipped through her fingers, mingling with unanswered questions like a tide washing away footprints on the beach. What would she say? As her resolve wavered, uncertainty gripped her anew. Would she find the courage to step forward amid the incoming storm? A moment passed. Time seemed to stretch ominously as her thoughts raced. To her disbelief, the footsteps drawing nearer had amplified the cacophony of her doubts. The gravity of the situation pressed against her chest, and for a second, Sarah thought about retreating into her well-worn habits, hiding behind the familiar walls of her daily life, where expectations were clear-cut and her role as a teacher remained unquestioned. Yet, even as uncertainty wrapped her tighter, she felt a pulse of defiance within her, a siren call urging her to challenge that fear. Were her in-laws' judgments truly insurmountable? Had she abandoned her aspirations, allowing guilt to drown out her desires? Jack's words echoed, enveloping her in the unshakable notion that she possessed untapped potential beyond that classroom door. As the footsteps halted, Sarah inhaled sharply, capturing the air thick with possibilities. She focused on the resolute warmth Jack's presence offered, a stark contrast to the chill of her apprehension. It felt reckless, yet invigorating, tapping into a part of her that longed to break free from convention. "What if I—" she stammered, scarcely aware of how these fleeting thoughts were crystallizing into a coherent idea. Jack's gaze remained steady, unwavering in its encouragement, and her heart raced in tandem with the rising tide of her courage. "What if I collaborate with you?" The words were barely out of her mouth before she felt a wave of relief wash over her, a sense of taking the first decisive step toward liberation. His eyes lit up, enthusiasm radiating from him. "Yes! Together, we can create something that truly reflects the spirit of this town, something that resonates beyond its borders." His excitement was infectious, igniting a flicker of confidence within her, as if he could see the emerging vision she hadn't fully embraced yet. But then a flicker of anxiety encroached once more. What if they don't approve? What if I fail? My family? The dismissal of her fears tasted bitter on her tongue, yet holding on to them felt all too comforting. "Sarah,"
Jack interrupted, his tone shifting to one of quiet strength. "It's not about them. This is about what you can achieve on your own terms. You have the wisdom to guide this community. Think of the changes you can inspire. That's invaluable." Strikingly, his words shifted the focus inward, prompting a cascade of memories of her students' successes filling her mind. Each face recalled their burgeoning hopes, and the sparks of creativity she had sparked seemed to affirm her capabilities. What if she could extend that impact further, weaving her story of grief into a message of resilience? Suddenly, she experienced a profound realization. It was no longer just about teaching children. It was about empowering herself, too. The prospect of a shared journey with Jack shimmered ahead like a radiant beacon, luring her forward despite the storm brewing inside her. Taking a step back, she assessed the sheer weight of her choices. Just as clarity emerged, the looming steps re-emerged as a familiar shadow. Sarah's heartbeat quickened at the thought of confrontation, and her conviction began to crack under the familiar pressure. What words would her family wield should they discover her burgeoning partnership with Jack? Would they validate her fears or mock her aspirations?
Anxiety clawed at her resolve, bleeding into the moment's potential. Perhaps it was time to confront not just her in-laws, but the preconceived notion of who she needed to be, a reflection shaped by expectations rather than aspirations. "Are you willing to help me?" she asked Jack, her voice steady with renewed determination. "Absolutely," he grinned. That simple agreement unlocked a door within her, leading her to a precipice of an adventure she never expected. As she let the possibilities wash over her, she sensed a daunting choice before her, summoning a courage she had kept at bay for far too long. But the arrival of footsteps behind them signaled a new tension, one she couldn't ignore. The moment had come to confront her reality, and she would either face her past or deeper fears ahead. The air shimmered with anticipation as Sarah realized that the path just might open doors to a new kind of growth, if only she could silence the doubts that crowded her mind. Would she have what it takes to embrace the unknown, or would her past stake its claim once again? The footsteps drew closer, each step amplifying the tension that simmered in the air, wrapping Sarah in a cocoon of uncertainty. She stole a glance at Jack, who stood firm beside her, grounding her in a way that was profoundly unsettling. Once again, doubt crept into her mind, forcing her to evaluate her resolve. Whatever issues lay ahead with her family, they lingered like ghosts, casting shadows over the flickering ember of courage that had ignited within her. "Let's step aside," Jack suggested, his tone gentle but insistent, guiding her toward the dense trees lining the path. The world around them blurred momentarily, as though the trees served as a barrier against judgment and uncertainty. She felt almost as if they were cocooned in a protective space, outside the reach of prying eyes. "Talk to me," he urged, reading the hesitations that danced across her face. Sarah found her breath catching, the weight of her options colliding within her. What if I fail at this? What if I can't produce what everyone expects? Even in the safe enclave of the trees, her anxieties manifested as tangible forces. Jack tilted his head, his gaze unwavering. "Success and failure. What do they mean to you? Is it defined by your family, by the community, or is it something more intrinsic? You're walking an uncharted path, but isn't that the point?" His words struck a chord deep within her. They resonated with the fears she'd bandaged over the years. For so long, her sense of success hinged on the validation from others, leaving little room for her own aspirations to breathe. Slowly, she began to recognize that the failure she feared might not fully define her if she chose to embark on this journey with Jack. What if they don't see my changes? What if I change, but I still don't fit into their idea of who I should be? She questioned, astonishment flaring at how quickly she unraveled her internal dialogue. "Then you answer to yourself first," he replied with conviction. "Sharing your voice, your talents, it's your gift to the world, not merely a negotiation with their expectations. You've already conquered so much. Don't allow them to redefine your next steps." As his words ignited something deeper, she felt her heart race. The hesitancy that clutched her dulled the brightness of commitment, but dared to unravel itself. "Okay, let's do this together," she said with newfound clarity, each word flowing more freely than the last. "I'm ready to explore this opportunity. But," her voice faltered slightly, "what if it isn't enough?" Jack crossed his arms, his brow creased, and although she could see the depths of concern in his eyes, a flicker of admiration danced within. Only one way to find out. Trust the process. Trust yourself. If it's not enough, then you adapt. You layer it with additional experiences and insights. Every piece you gather along the way is valuable, regardless of the outcome. His validation wrapped around her like a warm embrace, coaxing her to settle deeper into her potential. Yet another part of her tugged with the reality of what she was leaving unresolved. Her family's opinion felt like chains binding her, heavy and unyielding, threatening to pull her back into a suffocating space. "Sarah," he continued, shifting the conversation, "what's it like being in the classroom for so long, shaping young minds and dwelling in the confines of others' expectations? Are you ready to redefine your narrative?" At that moment, she confronted a haunting truth. All these years, she had poured herself into the roles others expected her to play. Changing that meant stepping into unfamiliar territory, one where she alone would shape the outcome. A part of her ached for the comfort of the classroom, but another craved a taste of liberation. The familiar sound of footsteps returned abruptly, shattering her thoughts. Jack's voice dropped to a whisper. "You can't turn back now. Are you ready to own your story?" Her breath quickened with urgency. She understood that her answer wasn't simply a response to Jack. It was a pivotal choice about embracing her identity amidst the expectations that threatened to suffocate her dreams. As the light shifted against the trees, illuminating her path ahead, Sarah took a step forward, her heart racing with a blend of excitement and fear. "Let's do this," she declared, ready to carve her own legacy. Just as she spoke, shadows loomed in the distance, her family approaching faster than she anticipated, their whispers coiling around her like a noose. What would their reaction be? Could she stand firm in her newfound resolve, in the face of their expectations? The path to her future began to blur, and Sarah felt the weight of her choices solidifying into a single, undeniable truth. This was only the beginning. The air felt thick as Sarah turned to face the oncoming shadows of her family, each footfall echoing the doubt that surged within her. Her heart raced, a primal rhythm of fight or flight, yet the decision had already begun to solidify inside her. With each step her family took, she confronted the specter of their expectations. These were the same expectations that had weighed heavily on her heart and mind for years. "Stay with me," Jack murmured, standing resolutely at her side. His unwavering presence anchored her, yet she couldn't shake the impending confrontation swirling around her like a storm. Her family appeared agitated, faces etched in concern that felt like a tightening vice around her chest. Sarah could almost hear the unspoken questions. Had she changed? Would she still be their daughter, the one they envisioned, or something entirely different? "What are you doing out here?" Her mother's voice was sharp, slicing through the palpable tension. The disappointment draped over her tone felt like a weighted cloak. "Just clearing my head," Sarah replied, her voice steadier than she felt. She instinctively took a small step back, creating distance yet making herself vulnerable. The forest ceased to be a sanctuary and turned into a vast theater where her performance was on display, but she felt an itch of rebellion buck against conformity. Clearing her throat, she stepped forward, determination crafting her posture. "Actually, I wanted to talk about my future." The words hung in the air, heavy with consequence. "Your future?" her father echoed, brows furrowing. "You've got a good job. Why complicate things?" The resignation in his tone rang painfully clear, reflecting the limits he'd long imposed on her. Denying the urge to retreat, she held his gaze, steeling herself. "I'm ready for something different. I want to expand my horizons." The silence following her words tasted bitter, their disbelief palpable. Her mother's eyes glimmered with a mixture of confusion and concern. "But Sarah, what if it doesn't work out? What if you fail?" A familiar whip of fear threatened to unravel her newfound resolve, but Jack's presence surged beside her. "What if she soars?" he countered, his voice cutting through the air, strong and unwavering. The shift was immediate. Her family looked at Jack as if he were an intruder, their frowns deepening. Confusion turned to irritation, and frustration hung thick in the air. Yet Sarah felt a shift within herself. She understood now that her journey wasn't merely about redefining her future, but about embracing her own worth. "Mom, Dad," she began, every syllable deliberate and reflective of her inner turmoil. "It's time I figure out who I am beyond your expectations. This is about my life, my choices." The last words spilled from her with a rush of strength, empowering and terrifying all at once. As her family processed her revelation, uncertainty clouded their expressions. Shadowy figures transformed into human expressions, each face reflecting a cocktail of shock, hurt, and confusion. Yet beneath it all, Sarah felt an intoxicating rush of autonomy. Each moment of hesitation was an invitation to explore what was possible beyond her current circumstance. "Isn't it risky to leap into the unknown?" her mother questioned, concern threading through her voice. "Growth usually requires risk," Jack interjected, solidifying his role as both ally and advocate. "And nobody knows what Sarah's capable of better than she does." The words hung momentarily in the temperamental air, stirring up an undercurrent of potential. Would her family begin to understand? What if they didn't? Fear threatened to return, but she wrestled with it. The potential for change began to shimmer enticingly. With every second that ticked past, Sarah realized she was peeling back layers of expectations, layers that had long kept her bound. Each heartbeat hammered the urgency of self-discovery deeper into her core. But what if they rejected her entirely? What if she embarked on a path that led to isolation rather than acceptance? A fresh wave of resistance curled around her as uncertainty battled against hope. Would her family's response drive her back into obscurity, or could this become a pivotal moment? As her heart raced with anticipation, a voice called from the edge of the crowded space, a voice that suddenly pierced through the chaos. "Sarah, don't let them define you." The cry echoed, a powerful affirmation illuminating what she truly yearned for. In that moment, she grasped that moving forward required leaving some stones unturned, even if it meant reshaping relationships that once defined her. "Tell them you're ready to embrace the unknown," Jack whispered beside her, their gazes locked on her family, awaiting her next move. The culmination of her journey lay at her feet, shimmering with possibility and layered with uncertainty. Every heartbeat told her now was the time to seize her narrative. Yet she paused, facing a crossroad she had to deliberately forge. Would she leap into freedom or linger in the shadows of expectations? As her family's expressions shifted from confusion to confrontation, the weight of this decision pressed into her being, urging her to take the next step. The tension in the air crackled, an electric charge that surged through Sarah's veins as she stood on the precipice of change. Her family's faces were a collage of emotions, fear, confusion, disbelief, but she couldn't allow those feelings to dictate her destiny any longer. She took a deep breath, embracing the moment, her heart pounding with both fear and exhilaration. The weight of expectations felt like shackles, and as she stood among the shadows of her family, she yearned for the light of her own identity. "Mom, Dad, it's not just about finding a job or taking a safe path," she declared, her voice trembling but resolute.
"It's about finding who I am meant to be beyond what you've envisioned for me." Each word felt like a liberation from the prison of their expectations, and she embraced the rebellious fire igniting within her. Her mother's brows furrowed deeper. "But what if you're making a mistake? What if it ends in failure?" Each syllable dripped with an urgency that felt suffocating. Sarah stiffened, grappling with the shadows of uncertainty that loomed tall. "What if I don't even try? What if I live my life defined by what others want?" The passion in her voice grew, flickering like a candle finally allowed to burn freely. In that instant, she understood that fear wasn't a barrier, but a gateway to her potential. Jack's hand found hers, grounding and reassuring. The steady pulse of their connection strengthened her resolve. "Let her own her choices," he urged, stepping forward, the shield she didn't know she needed. "This is about Sarah's journey, not yours." His defense ignited a spark behind her family's eyes, yet it also threatened to intensify their apprehension. Sarah's heart raced, teetering between the thrill of newfound authority and the urge to retreat. Would they ever accept this version of her? Every inch of her desired acceptance, yet a deeper yearning for authenticity pushed her toward the precipice. "Sarah," her father spoke, voice lower, more menacing with wounded pride. "You have a good career ahead of you. Why risk everything?" The warning ricocheted inside her, a challenge she couldn't ignore. "Because it's my life," she exclaimed, the words bursting forth with a fiery resolution. "I want to explore the world, to discover what I'm truly capable of. Risk is how you grow, how you learn." Each proclamation marked a step away from the life they had curated for her, an assertion of her individual journey. As her words echoed in the dense air, she could feel the solidarity between her and Jack, a tether to a future she's crafting for herself. The shifting expressions on her family's faces seemed less like a wall and more like a window. Perhaps they could see her, or at least the beginnings of who she could become. A pregnant pause filled the space, stretching time as uncertainty settled over every individual heartbeat. Sarah's breath quickened as she scanned their features for acceptance. It became apparent that they were navigating through their own trepidations,
"This is a lot for us, Sarah," her mother finally breathed, her voice teetering between support and reluctance. "We just want you to be happy." "Then support me as I figure it out," Sarah urged, conviction driving each syllable. "Give me a chance. I need to try, even if it means failing." Her heart swelled and constricted simultaneously, the recognition of autonomy sparking other questions within her. How would she build this new life? What would it look like? Moments of uncertainty crashed into her mind, but they didn't overwhelm her. They nudged her to explore what lay ahead.
"Your support means everything," she murmured, glancing back at Jack now, who nodded, a confident smile spreading across his face. She felt the warmth of hope wash over her, an encouragement that perhaps with each step into her independence, new paths would unfurl. "Okay, we'll talk about this, but you need to keep us in the loop," her father conceded, a flicker of understanding softening his features. "I promise," she replied, her voice steady, despite the tremors of uncertainty still swirling within her. Each inch she claimed from them felt monumental, a block removed from the story they'd been writing for her. But even as she ventured toward independence, the fear of what lay beyond lingered on the horizon. Was she truly ready to forge her own destiny? As her family withdrew slightly, absorbing her resolve, Sarah caught a glimpse of the vastness that lay ahead, a landscape of opportunities mixed with risks, a thrilling unknown tempting her to dive in. "Let's talk about what my first step needs to be," she said, embracing the notion of planning. As she started to imagine her future, a mysterious figure caught her eye from the edge of the crowd, their indigo gaze piercing through the fading light. The figure stood still, an enigmatic presence against the backdrop of her family's shadows. There was something compelling in the way they observed her, a silent intrigue swirling amid the conversations fading into the spaces between them. Instinct told her this could change everything, igniting a sense of purpose she never knew was possible. With bated breath and a heart unrestrained, she took a single step toward the figure, a leap into the unknown whispering of communication, connection, and perhaps even an adventure that would take her far beyond what she ever thought she could be. But could this stranger unlock a future even brighter than she dared to dream? As Sarah approached the figure, she felt a mix of curiosity and anxiety unfurl within her. The world around her dimmed into a soft blur, and all that remained was the intoxicating presence of the stranger. Every step quickened her pulse. This was the moment she had yearned for, the culmination of her declarations from moments before. The figure stepped into the light, revealing a tall, confident woman with an air of sophistication. She was impeccably dressed, her attire merging the elegance of high fashion with a hint of bohemian flair. The woman's hair fell in soft waves around her shoulders, accentuating her magnetic smile, which seemed to spark a connection between them, an unspoken understanding that sparked through the air. "Sarah, right?" the woman asked, her voice smooth and inviting like a gentle breeze on a warm day. "Yes," Sarah replied, measuring the stranger's words, intrigued by the way her name rolled off the woman's tongue. "How did you know?" "I've been following your journey from a distance."
The woman gestured towards Sarah's family, now seemingly distant in both physical space and emotional connection. "You spoke with conviction just now. It's refreshing." The compliment sent a wave of exhilaration through Sarah. It felt empowering to be seen in this way, to have someone recognize her struggle for independence and authenticity. "Thank you. I'm just trying to carve my own path," she said, her voice steadier now. "Carving your path," the woman mused, tilting her head slightly. "That's an extraordinary ambition, especially when the world is set on assigning you a predetermined narrative." There was a wisdom in her words that intrigued Sarah further. "And what makes your path extraordinary?" she inquired, stepping closer, eager to delve deeper into this woman's story. The woman chuckled softly, a warm sound that felt like sunlight breaking through clouds. "I'm Maya. I've always believed that the most fulfilling journeys emerge when you dare to leap into the unknown. I left a stable job to pursue my passion for entrepreneurship. Now, I run a successful design company." The revelation stunned Sarah. Her mind swirled with possibilities. "How did you make that leap?" she pressed, her internal questions aligning with Maya's experience. "Fear accompanied my every step," Maya said, a glint of understanding in her eyes. "But I learned that fear can be your greatest ally. Embrace it, question it. It's what pushed me to explore my true potential. I might not have known everything, but I started somewhere, aligning my skills, honing my abilities, and shedding my fears little by little." As Maya spoke, Sarah felt something within her stirring. Here was a woman who had walked a path she had only envisioned for herself. Maya's story resonated deeply, and the idea of taking calculated risks in pursuit of her passion ignited a fire within her. "I've always painted and loved design," Sarah admitted, a thread of revelation weaving through her thoughts. "But I've never thought of it as more than just a hobby, more than just a side interest." "Then it's time to cultivate it," Maya encouraged. "You possess a gift that shouldn't languish in the shadows of fear. Why not use this moment as a turning point? I can help you navigate it if you're ready to commit." Sarah's heart raced again, this time not with trepidation, but with exhilaration. "Would you?" she asked, her voice rising with anticipation. Maya's expression softened, yet maintained a glimmer of challenge. "It's not going to be easy,
Building something from the ground up requires tenacity and authenticity. Are you prepared to face the complexities of your artistic journey? Sarah understood that this was more than a mere offer. It was a crossroads. Here lay an opportunity that could lead to empowering self-discovery, but it demanded her total commitment. The faces of her family still lingered in the back of her mind, their expectations coiling tightly around her senses.
Yet, looking into Maya's indigo gaze, she sensed the support she sought, a foundation for her aspirations. "I'm ready," she declared, the words flooding out with newfound determination. This was a moment to seize. "Excellent." Maya extended her hand, her smile warm and encouraging. A mentor-mentee relationship could unlock doors you never knew existed. Let's figure out the first steps to transform your passion for art into a tangible venture. As Sarah grasped Maya's hand, the connection was electric, a tangible bridge linking her past fears to an uncharted future. A thrilling anticipation surged between them, a blend of excitement and urgency. Together, they could fathom depths untouched until now. But as they released each other's grips, something tugged at Sarah's thoughts. The prospect of risking everything for something unknown felt daunting. A voice in her mind dared her to confront her fears head-on. "Wait a moment," Sarah paused. "What if my family can't support this? What if I lose them altogether?" Maya met her gaze with a reassuring steadiness. "Then let's work through the complications together. Just because you're stepping into your light doesn't mean you'll lose the ones you love. You can forge your path while re-establishing connections where they matter most." Sarah's resolve strengthened. Perhaps she could reclaim her narrative without erasing the ties that bound her. With a shared smile, they turned their attention to the multitude of possibilities ahead, ready to sculpt a future from her passions. But as they began to exchange ideas, a text pinged on Sarah's phone, a familiar tone that swallowed her thoughts whole. Glancing down, she saw her mother's name light up the screen. "Can we talk? We need to discuss what's next." An overwhelming wave of anxiety washed over her. Had her moment of bold confidence already begun to wane under the weight of familial expectations? "Are you all right?" Maya asked, noticing the shift in Sarah's demeanor. I think I need to respond." The choice lay heavy within her. Could she tackle her family's concerns without abandoning her newfound commitment? Flashes of uncertainty flooded her mind, but she understood now that each step forward would require bravery and fortitude. The moment of truth approached, and the tether to her past threatened to pull her back. Taking a deep breath, she opened the message, feeling the thrill of what lay ahead clash with the anxiety rooted deep within her. This was only the beginning, but even as clarity danced at the edges of her grasp, she questioned if she was truly ready to face all sides of this new venture. A pungent realization washed over her. Sometimes the biggest risks were intertwined with redefining connections, in her art, in her family, and within herself. What lay ahead would unravel tales she had yet to write, waiting to see if she had the courage to confront it all. As she typed a response to her mother, she felt the weight of commitment descend once again. Would she choose the path of authenticity or retreat into the safety of her past? The decision loomed before her, igniting nerves and fueling possibility. With trembling hands, Sarah pressed her thumb against the screen, her heart thudding erratically as her mind raced. What would happen when she revealed her intentions to pursue a career in design to her mother, the matriarch who had seen success through stable paths and conventional achievements? Taking a deep breath, she began to type. "Mom, I think we need to talk. I've made some decisions about my future. It could be exciting." She hesitated before pressing send, the magnitude of her words sinking in. Every keystroke felt both liberating and terrifying, releasing a wave of uncertainty that threatened to drown her resolve. Maya watched her, sensing the shift in Sarah's energy and brimming with encouragement. "You've taken an immense step, Sarah. Remember, fear is a catalyst for growth. It means you care deeply about this journey." "Thanks, Maya. It's just," Sarah's thoughts cascaded into a flood. "What if my mom doesn't understand? What if she pushes back?" "That's a real concern," Maya acknowledged, crossing her arms thoughtfully. "But you have to navigate this, and remember, your honesty might provide the clarity she needs to support you." With Maya's words echoing in her mind, Sarah acknowledged the truth buried within. Her family had a right to be concerned. They were navigating her future based on the expectations that had shaped her upbringing. Taking ownership of her choices meant confronting not just her dreams, but also the tension that had inevitably brewed beneath the surface. As she glanced at Maya, the urgency in her new mentor's eyes sparked a realization.
Sarah was not merely stepping onto an untrodden path, she was redefining what it meant to be part of her family. "You're right," she finally murmured, reinvigorated by the thought of being open with her family, even if it brought uncertainty. Maya nodded. "This is your narrative, Sarah. Own it. Forge connections outside your comfort zone." An unexpected thrill pulsed through Sarah as she imagined her artwork, her very soul presented to the world. As the conversation continued, Maya delved into discussing the practical steps they would take together, building a portfolio, creating an online presence, and even forming a preliminary business plan. With each suggestion, a parallel excitement surged in Sarah, drowning out her fears momentarily. Hours passed as they dissected strategies and objectives, each plan igniting deeper convictions within Sarah. The prospect of finally pursuing her passions felt real, like it might actually happen. They jotted down ideas, connecting Sarah's artistic talents with market needs, exploring avenues she had never considered before.
Yet, mixed amidst the elation was a nagging anxiety at the back of her mind, the anticipation of her mother's response. With every shared idea, that thought spiraled like a dark cloud, momentarily shadowing her enthusiasm. "Let's lay some groundwork together," Maya proposed, sensing the rising tension. "Let's take that text from your mom and break it down. What's your main fear, Sarah?" "That she won't understand the leap I'm making," Sarah replied, the weight of her concern spilling forth. "What if she thinks I'm throwing everything away?" Maya leaned in, her voice steady. "You're not throwing anything away. You're building something authentic, something that reflects who you are. Your family needs to see your passion." "Yeah, but..." As Sarah's brow furrowed, she wrestled with the unrelenting urge to push her fears away, yet she was unsure of how to clearly articulate her vision to her family. "Rather than focusing on your mom's possible discontent, focus on expressing how this path shapes your identity. Highlighting your journey might shift her perspective." Her heart aligned with that new intention. Maybe if she framed it right, her dreams could reflect not selfishness, but evolution, a step toward not only her happiness, but a more profound understanding of who she was becoming. "Okay, I'll talk to her," Sarah said, her voice steadier now. "I'll try to express why this matters so much." "Exactly," Maya responded with a proud smile. "Communicate the necessity of art in your life. Learning that your dreams are valid requires practice. All forms of communication are just as important." With resolve now forging through her, Sarah imagined the conversation unfurling, not as a confrontation, but as an unveiling of her aspirations. The specter of fear faded, replaced by an exhilarating conviction. As they continued to brainstorm, Sarah felt the anticipation of the moment arrive like a storm on the horizon, thrilling and daunting. She had ideas, plans, and now even a sense of agency driving her forward. But amidst that burgeoning excitement, she also sensed her family's emotional implications looming just out of sight. Maya broke through her reverie. "We should also think about visualization. Your art should be your anchor through these conversations." "Yes, I see that. There's something tangible I can hold on to," Sarah interjected, her thoughts re-clarifying into structure. "I can translate my visions into design, and that can serve as a way to explain my journey to them more vividly." But just as hope flickered behind those concepts, another ping from her phone drew her focus, this time a call from her father. The instant dread returned, tightening in her gut. "Sarah, you need to take this," Maya urged gently, her eyes encouraging. Taking a deep breath, Sarah accepted the call, her heart pounding as her father's voice echoed through. "Sarah, I heard from your mother. We need to talk about your future." The weight of his words struck her, and with it, a surge of determination. What lay ahead would be a confrontation of all she had ever known, and a test of her newfound courage. As her father's voice faded into the background, Sarah felt the swelling storm of a decision forming within her. Was she ready to face not only her mother's expectations, but her father's as well? In that moment of uncertainty, she realized this was just the beginning. The actual leap awaited. Would she succumb to fear or stand firm in her truth? A complex narrative awaited, larger than herself, emerging from the depths of her own aspirations. Sarah inhaled sharply, the air thick with the taste of impending confrontation as her father's voice echoed in her mind. The storm of conflict roiled within her, threatening to disrupt the fragile sense of purpose she had begun to cultivate. What would he say? Did he expect her to follow some predetermined career path that she felt shackled to? "Mom called me," her father continued, breaking through her racing thoughts. "I need to understand what this design career means for you. This isn't just a whim, is it?" His careful choice of words revealed his concern, but underneath there was an undertone of skepticism. The stakes suddenly felt incredibly high.
No, Dad, it's not a whim. She found herself responding almost instinctively, her voice stronger than she felt. It's something I believe I'm meant to do. As the words hit the air, a flicker of doubt surged within her. What did she even mean by meant? Design? Is that a serious career option? You know how we feel about stability. His voice held that familiar note of parental caution wrapped in concern. Clenching her fists, Sarah fought the urge to retreat behind her old insecurities. The admiration she felt for art, its ability to communicate, transform, and inspire, rocked her core. Leveling with her father was more than simply defending her choice. It was about painting a clear picture of her identity, something she had been relying on others to define for too long. I know how you see things, Dad, but I want you to understand that design isn't just a job for me. It's who I am. It's not just about stability. It's about fulfillment. The moment hung between them, silence amplifying the weight of her conviction. Yet could she truly expect him to catch her vision? I need to see you succeed, Sarah. We all do, but success has its roots in security. The familiar tug of parental expectations loomed large in the conversation, clawing at her resolve. But buried beneath that anxiety, a new fire ignited. But what if success looks different? What if pursuing my passion opens doors I can't even foresee? Just because it's not a traditional path doesn't mean it's the wrong one. Her voice sharpened as thoughts raced. I have an idea, and I'm willing to fight for it. I need your understanding, not your doubt. A pause stretched on the line, heavy with unspoken thoughts.
She could hear her father's breathing, measure the weight of his reflection in that silence. Sarah, believe it or not, I need time to digest this. His tone softened, hinting at a vulnerability she hadn't expected. But you need to be realistic too. Dreaming big is great, but the world doesn't always afford us the luxury of pursuing our hobbies. His words stung, aligning with nagging fears. Was she merely living in a fantasy? The reality of the art world, the financial instability, the competitive nature, these were facts she couldn't ignore. Yet, was it worth chasing a conventional route to live in a gilded box? I understand, but I'm willing to build something real out of this dream. Sarah took a breath, her heart pacing. This is my chance to create my future, and I need your support. The weight of her plea made her feel vulnerable. She was standing on the edge of self-advocacy. Okay, let's discuss this further, together, he said finally. It's hard for me, but I'll listen. Just bring me something tangible to analyze, all right? I want to see your plan laid out. Absolutely. Hope surged, filling the once empty spaces of her resolve. She could envision her ideas coming to life, clear strategies emerging from the haze. Hear me out, though. You need to be prepared for the tough questions. Critique is just a part of the process. I know. Gathering the scattered pieces of her newfound conviction, she smiled, her anxious heart steadied by a firm foundation. I'll make sure to present everything clearly. As they exchanged parting words, a weight lifted, the burden of confrontation replaced by inspired motivation. She hung up, energy thrumming through her. Her father hadn't outright rejected her, and now she had a chance to showcase her worth. Okay, Sarah, back to work, she muttered to herself, determination slicing through any residual fear. She turned to Maya, who had sat quietly during the call, observing with a cautious smile. You did well, Maya encouraged. Presenting your vision is going to be pivotal. This is just the beginning. Now I need to solidify my plan and show him how I can turn this dream into action, Sarah replied, her focus sharpening. Maya nodded. That's it. Figure out what your brand represents, what specific offerings define you. Archive your designs, make connections. There's a world out there waiting for your unique spin. Sarah felt the exhilaration return, blossoming within her as ideas began bubbling to the surface. But beneath it, the reality of impending challenges whispered caution, urging her to refine every detail of her vision. An idea sparked, igniting plan after plan within her mind. She could draft the initial outline, showcasing her creative process, compiling sketches, and developing a cohesive narrative. But tougher than crafting her portfolio would be finding her vocal identity. Could she communicate her essence in a way her father, and eventually her mother, would grasp?
Why don't we begin with how you describe your design philosophy? That's a great place to start, Maya suggested, knowing the importance of articulating her vision clearly. Yes, what encapsulates who I am? What does my art represent? A whirlwind of ideas swirled in her mind, compelling her to unleash a torrent of passion directed toward defining herself. But just as she felt that reality settling in, another message dinged on her phone. The text caught her eye, pulling her from the momentum. It was a message from her mother. Sarah, I saw the text you sent me.
Please call me when you can. I'd like to talk. Tension cascaded through her again, deeper this time. The anticipation turned thick, igniting her anxiety anew. This moment could change everything. Would her mother mirror her father's skepticism, or could she finally bridge the gap between their differences? The clarity of her path flickered, but determination flared within her. She had a mountain to climb, a voice to reclaim, and the power to transform her narrative. But with each response awaited, deep breaths quickly followed. How would her mother react? Would the battle only deepen with expectations on both sides brimming to the surface, or could she find unexpected support just beyond the threshold of fear? As Sarah prepared to return her mother's call, she felt the familiar anxiety bubble up, mingling with an unyielding resolve. The stakes felt higher than ever. This conversation would define not just her career aspirations, but her relationships with her family. She opted for a quiet corner, readying herself to confront whatever lay ahead. "Hello," her mother answered, the warmth in her tone contrasting the palpable tension in Sarah's chest. "Hi, Mom," Sarah began, her voice steadier than she felt. "I got your message and I wanted to talk. Thank you for calling me back. I just want to understand this new direction you're taking. Design? It seems so risky." "Mom, it's not just risky. It's liberating," Sarah replied, her confidence growing with each word. "This isn't just an escape. It's about embracing who I am and what I love. I've thought about it for a long time. But can you really make a living doing art?" her mother probed, skepticism lacing her voice. "Mom, I've been unhappy for too long trying to fit into a mold that isn't mine," Sarah said. "I want to create something meaningful, not just for me but for others too. The only way I'm ever going to feel fulfilled is if I take this chance. But what if?" "No what ifs," Sarah interrupted gently but firmly. "I can't thrive in a world of what ifs. I'm already envisioning ways to build a portfolio and connect with the community through my art. I want to show you that this is far more than a mere whim." A silence followed, and Sarah's heart raced. Would this be the turning point?
"I just don't want you to regret your choices," her mother finally said, her tone softening. "Will you promise to think this through carefully?" "Of course," Sarah assured, feeling the heaviness in her mother's words. "But please understand that this is my journey. I need to explore this part of myself. I want your support, but I can't afford to hold back out of fear for what you think." Another small pause. Then her mother spoke with a cautious tone. "I will try to understand. Just please keep us in the loop about what your plans look like." "Thank you, Mom," Sarah said, gratitude washing over her. "That means everything to me." As the call ended, a powerful surge of determination pulsed through Sarah's veins. She realized she had successfully articulated her intentions and desires, not merely for herself, but for her family as well. For the first time, she felt like she was paving her own way, block by block, without being boxed into someone else's expectations. Her pulse began to steady as the nerves from earlier began to fade. With her parents' cautious acceptance, she had a foundation to build on, and that invigorated her passion to explore her artistic aspirations further. Maya's voice echoed in the back of her mind, and Sarah felt a sense of urgency to act. It was time to craft something tangible from her dreams. She dove into her sketchbooks, outlining her design philosophies with fervor, the pages alight with vibrant colors and bold patterns that embodied her journey. Each stroke of her pencil became a declaration of independence, her dark fears transformed into bursts of creative energy. She envisioned a brand that signified resilience, passion, and authenticity, a narrative reflecting her evolution beyond the confines defined by others. Days turned into nights as Sarah navigated the intersection of her creativity and professional ambitions. Conversations flowed with Maya about portfolios, market research, and potential names for her design venture. With each breakthrough came an invigorating sense of accomplishment, the weight of expectation transforming into the elation of self-exploration. As the pieces started fitting together, contemplative conversations emerged with her family as well. Gradually, they learned about the processes of the creative world, listening intently as she shared her plans and beginnings. Their slowly blooming acceptance felt like a warm embrace of freedom, fostering connections that were no longer bound by nostalgia or expectation. Weeks later, after untold dedication and late-night brainstorming sessions, Sarah stood in front of an art exhibit that showcased her designs, the culmination of her journey, her identity woven into every piece. As visitors admired her work, Sarah felt a complete transformation. Gone were the shadows of apprehension, her heart brimming with confidence and pride. She embraced the acknowledgement of her hard-earned achievements. Maya's unwavering support and belief in her potential had proven invaluable, illuminating paths that Sarah had never imagined could be possible. Each compliment echoed within her, validating that her leap of faith had been fruitful. In that moment, she recognized that personal fulfillment did not hinge solely on external acceptance, but emanated from deep within. She had carved her own destiny, choosing to marry her passion to her purpose. With the lines of her past gracefully incorporated into her present, Sarah knew she would never need to hide again. She had conquered the walls that once bound her, transforming her identity into a powerful narrative defined by resilience, creativity, and determination. Eagerly, she invited her family to witness her showcase, hoping to create new connections between their legacy and the vibrant possibilities she had unearthed. This evolving communication filled the space where trepidation once thrived, with understanding, growth, and hope spilling forth, illuminating the road ahead. This was Sarah's moment, a glorious culmination of every choice she had made, marked by individual transformation and fulfillment. Are you ready to embrace your own journey and transform your life? Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support creators who empower others. Comment your thoughts and reactions. I want to hear your theories about Sarah's journey and your own personal growth. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to uplift those around you. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting each other through these actions.